Well, all right, people, we are live today. I am so excited to be here. Thank you, Fix, for setting up this great Facebook Live event. I'm here with my very good friend, Dr. Cory Frogley. Cory, what's up, brother?
Hey, man, good to be with you. I see you got a little wind blowing in the curlies.
Got a little wind going here. It's a beautiful day here in the nation's capital,
Yeah,
coming to you live from Washington, D.C. Why don't you tell the audience where you're at right now?
coming from Salt Lake City, and we are having record-breaking temperatures. In fact, it's supposed
Wow.
to hit over 100 tomorrow, which we've never hit over 100 in this year, like this
Wow.
early in the year. And the governor actually asked the entire state to come together to pray for divine intervention for rain, because this is really bad.
Hey, you got to send that mojo out to the universe, right? If you
Yeah,
want some changes, you
yeah,
got to do that.
we
Love
need
it.
some
Love it.
rain.
Well, I'm so glad that you're here today. And again, thanks so much for hanging out with me. We've seen quite a bit of each other over the last several weeks, everything from entrepreneurial conferences to you had a phenomenal event, which I'm going to want you to talk about in just a bit,
Cool.
that helps doctors and their practices. Great event. We just got off a call related to the Future of Chiropractic Task Force that has been developed through the Chiropractic Summit and Chiro Congress. And so very excited about that. So a lot to talk about, but Cory, maybe start with your background. You come from an amazing family, great chiropractic history. So let's start there.
Yeah, thanks, man. I appreciate that. And gosh, it does seem it's pretty cool with technology how we can close the space of time and distance. And gosh, it's been an amazing last month, actually, and so fun. So for the audience that doesn't know me, if you've gone to Palmer College somewhere between 1960 and 2000, you probably know the Frogley name. My dad is a legend, and just really keep this as short as I can. When you look at our profession, my dad was a medic in World War II, right?
Wow.
Kind of crazy how old my father was. And after marrying my mom after the war, was on a path to become a medical doctor. But after 2 children, the second labor almost killed my mom. She literally almost lost her life in childbirth. So her OB told her, Lee, you cannot have any more kids. You're at best going to be in a wheelchair by the time you're in your mid to late 20s. And she was 21 at the time.
Wow.
So it just devastated her because my mom wanted a big family, grew up on a farm, very active. But it wasn't until 2 years later, after bouncing around the country, my dad was in the FBI saving money for medical school, literally exhausted every medical resource for options to get my mom well, was introduced to a chiropractor. And the chiropractor was the very first doctor who x-rayed her spine, found out that she had scoliosis. She had a very rotated atlas.
Wow.
He laid her down, set that atlas, and I mean, immediate changes. But through his care and being introduced to some other, chiropractors in that time, my mom was feeling so good. She turned to my dad and said, "Hey, I think we're going to try having another child." And, being a family man myself, I know that when my wife says we're going to do something, we do it. So dad said,
Smart
"All right,
man.
let's do this." So this time, baby number 3 came along with no complications. There's a 3-year gap between the 2 kids. Well, that experience changed my parents' lives. And my dad pivoted away from medical school, went to chiropractic school, enrolled in 1958. Just as he graduated, BJ passed away. David came in as the president. And my dad, after graduating, because he had a PhD, he had a master's degree, he had all these other degrees, they hired him on immediately to come teach at the college.
Wow.
And so my dad taught neurophysiology for a couple of years before he got promoted to executive vice president for David Palmer, and was by his side as they went around the country in the Palmer jet, debating the medical doctors to get us credentialed as physicians, right, as DCs. That was my dad. His best friend, Clay Thompson, right? He developed the Thompson technique with Clay. And I became the 10th of mom and dad's 10 kids, 7 boys, 6 of us became chiropractors. So I didn't really have an option of what I was going to become. It was pretty set in stone for me.
Well, I'll tell you what, man, that is an amazing story. And it just is another example. And I've heard thousands over my years of being a chiropractor, how chiropractors change lives, and it goes beyond neck and back pain. Are we great at that? Absolutely. But are there other elements of what chiropractic do for our bodies and what it does for individual lives. It's just incredible. And so it's a great story. But to your point of your dad kind of being this chiropractic warrior and going around the country, you've got some of those genes, bro. I know you well. You have that chiropractic warrior gene, and I just a tiny bit. And I know you were in a successful chiropractic practice, and then you started a technology company. Maybe share with the audience a little bit about that story too.
Yeah, because when I came out of school, I was passionate about sports medicine, right? I actually even thought about sports medicine before becoming a chiropractor. But when I really realized that chiropractic was the way to go, like it wasn't even a question. So I joined my brother's practice coming out of school, who was on this path to building this amazing facility with aquatic rehab pools. It was connected to an entire high performance gym. We started attracting professional athletes. I was working with athletes. I was helping baseball players move from the minor leagues to the major leagues. We were working with the Utah Jazz, the Kansas City Royals. I mean, it was my world. I had come right from a sports background, and I loved it. And we started combining the looking at different models, right? We looked at how do we, because again, my mission, my passion has always been, how do we get more chiropractic more mainstream? I think we all kind of share that. We want to see an increase in utilization.
Yep.
Well, as we began really researching the MDDC model, the DCPT model, really looking at collaborating with other providers, how do we do that to impact, to get it more mainstream? And I was really lucky to be able to go around and speak and started, we grew so fast and had so much success. We started getting invited to speak at different events. And what I quickly realized was we weren't very profitable. Like we were seeing a lot of patients, but man, we were not profitable. We were growing, but every time I talked to my brother, we were bleeding at the seams. And what I didn't know at the time, because I wasn't running the practice business side of it very well, or with my brother, he was really running it, was he didn't know his numbers. He didn't have, like, he knew some of his practice numbers. He knew we were tracking stats, right? Management by statistics. What he didn't really have full eyes on was the overhead and how to use your profits to grow and expand and create impact, right? Touch more patients' lives. And there were conversations that we have that now looking back blows my mind at the lack of transparency that he had on his business operations. Now, he's a phenomenal business guy. He's a phenomenal chiropractor. But just there was no technology at the time to see clearly how a practice is operating. So long story short, I went off, opened up my own practice. Again, trying to keep this as short as possible, developed a consulting company. But my frustration in our profession was meeting other DCs who were incredible physicians, but didn't have a way to really run and expand the practice, to run the business side, because profits drive dreams. Okay. You've got to have profits to expand your dreams, to make them real, to create impact. And I don't know, I found myself on this passion of trying to develop technology that would make it easy, right? Just the easy button. Show me how much I'm spending, show me how much I'm spending. What do I do with it now? So that's kind of the seedlings of what BlueIQ has become, and it's growing into even so much more than I ever imagined. But but that's kind of the path.
So not for it to be a commercial around BlueIQ, but I think that the story is really, really important. Just so people, if they don't know what BlueIQ is, Cory, give us just a brief rundown of what does your company do? What's the value prop there, and why should sports chiropractors care?
Yeah, great question. I have found doctors have just different pockets of where they really shine. And we have our physicians that are incredible physicians that can't also wear all these other hats of marketing and businessman and janitor and content writer,
accountant, right?
It's too much. It's actually a really broken model that we live in. And if you look at the model, okay, if you're a chiropractor, you really need to get this, because all we have to do is pivot to look at other professions for a brief second. If you look at medical, they went corporate years ago. There are more corporate practices than there are private practices.
Yep.
They gobbled them up. If you look at dentistry, 20% is now corporate and only 80% is still family practice. And that needle is moving quickly. Well, it's happening in chiropractic, guys, where corporate's coming in, they're starting to corporatize and monetize, right, our arts and talents. Well, that's not a bad thing if it's done right, but you just got to realize that the reason why this is happening is because there is it's hard to run a practice profitably and create the size and the impact and all of these things. For example, my dad, who was probably the most talented chiropractor I've ever met, right? And I've met a lot, but the guy had a gift. And anybody who's been adjusted by him, still, when I see them, they're just like, oh, I was adjusted by your dad. But then as I watched these other around the Quad Cities, right, in Davenport, Iowa, I would watch these other practices marketing and become known, right? Their name became known. And I would start hearing about them. I'd see their TV commercials. I'd see all these things. And I'm like, Dad, why don't you market? Why don't you reach more patients? And he's like, I don't know how to do that stuff. So bless his heart.
Just get on the table. I'm going to adjust you. And that's my marketing.
Right. And I think about, not that my dad probably could have adjusted more people because he was as busy as he probably wanted to ever be. But I wanted to figure out, how does a chiropractor who wants to create more reach? Because if we look at the utilization of chiropractic, and again, depending on what research you're looking at, it's still somewhere between 9 and 15%.
Right.
It's been that way since I was a kid. It's not changing, guys. Like, something has to change. And what I finally came to the absolute certainty of is that we've got to become really good at building a profitable practice, using those profits as levers to market. Now, you as a phenomenal sports chiropractor, that doesn't mean you need to see more patients. Actually, it's just the opposite. We build a model for you where you can learn to run a practice as a leader, a model to bring in other doctors to help you, because it's those practices that are expanding, mastering marketing, mastering exam and case acceptance. You might be the greatest doc on the planet, but if you're not known, if you don't become known as the expert in your specific field, you'll be used little. And if you learn how to grow your fame, you will impact more people. Now, again, that doesn't mean you treat, it's growing the brand. It's almost becoming a mini corporation, a mini corporate. And these are the tools. Now, we have practices that are, very small using our software. We have 50 location practices using our software, because the principles don't change. It's the same principles for creating impact, for treating more patients, attracting more patients. So again, the quick nuts and bolts of it is, we are chiropractic's #1 software for tracking, analyzing, and growing a profitable practice.
Yeah, it's great. I'm a customer, you guys, so I can say it's great because I am a customer. And I remember meeting Cory several years ago, and I was like, man, this is genius. It's just genius. And one of my favorite books of all time is a book called Exponential Organizations by Salim Ismail. And I heard Salim speak at an entrepreneurial conference in Napa. And he was the first speaker of this whole mastermind event. It was a great event. And I was like, wowed. And I had to go up, I had to get his book. And I read it right away. And there's some elements that are critical to what Cory's talking about. The first element is, businesses that grow exponentially are information enabled. And what your platform has done for us and many, many, many other practices is you've given us information at our fingertips in a dashboard, which by the way is one of the inherent elements of an exponential organization, having a dashboard where you can identify exactly where you stand with your business, because we're inundated with data, we're inundated with information. And yet, how do we make sense of it all? And I think what you've done really, I know you've done really, really well is to consolidate and aggregate that information in ways that simplify it for people so they know what to do. And what I love about you and how you think about your impact on chiropractic is you're not just handing a product to somebody being like, later, go do that. You have a system built where you're supporting them along the way. And for any chiropractor who is having some challenges, struggling financially, even going up and down, not having consistency, this is an area where you can really take your practice and by the way, your practice to the next level and reduce your stress levels like exponentially. Because life is so much easier when you know what's going on in your business.
And sleep at night, right?
Oh yeah, for sure. So it's great what you've done. What do you see as like the best or most important technology advancement that's coming down the pike in chiropractic and or in healthcare at large?
Yeah, so when you look at information, you touched on this, there's more information generated in the world right now in a 24-hour span than was created from the beginning of time to the year 2000. Combined. There's so much information out there. And when you get everybody looking at their devices and being, we're on Facebook Live, right? More information coming at you. It's incredible how much information we can consume. The problem is that you talked about that book, and most organizations are run with information from the top down. So think about this. You walk into your practice, you hope your front desk person or somebody on the back office is running reports and taking action on those reports. And sometimes they do, and sometimes they don't. And when they don't, the performance of your practice starts to slip. And you wake up in the middle of the night and you're like, oh, Mrs. Smith, gosh, I haven't seen her for a year and she was coming in so regularly. I wonder what happened to her. Like, patients start slipping through the cracks. Payments start slipping through the cracks. Profitability starts slipping through the cracks. Well, I wanted to fix something that created an organization where we turn the information upside down. So instead of walking into your team meeting for you to tell the organization what's wrong, we created a system where you walk into team meeting and sit down. And your team, who has access to the data now, their portion of the patient experience,
they own it.
And they come to report on it and strategize on it and tell you what they're doing to improve the systems and processes. Well, when we talk about technology, think about EHRs. EHRs were built as really a way to get paid, to monitor appointments and to run your day. And then you look at QuickBooks, right? QuickBooks is designed to help you, manage your finances, pay payroll, make sure the government gets paid. And then you look at all these marketing data sources. But what chiropractors really understand Google Analytics or understand Facebook and the data that's being generated, because it's insane how powerful that data is when you actually tap into it. So the technology and where technology is moving, because I do work in other health industries, we wanted to analyze what is going to make the biggest impact in our profession. And it's centralized data. Now, the problem again with a profession is you have, and I won't name the EHRs, but all these EHRs either in the cloud or trying to get to the cloud and holding the information hostage. Now, I know there's Information Cares Act and all of these things, but the reality of where we have to move as a society, not just as an industry, as a society, is this ability to share data, to make it easily shareable, so that a patient who goes over here and goes over there, like that information is shareable. And again, if we really want to see the benefits of chiropractic, let's use our data, guys. Let's bring this into a centralized system that we can all benefit from, because you as a chiropractor, you're doing an amazing job of treating a patient. You're literally doing miracles daily. I mean, I still remember a patient who walked into, or didn't, she wheelchaired into our practice, being told by our neurologist she would never walk again. A month later, she's walking again. And I have, this is years ago. I have no data on it. I have no way to prove, the miracle of what chiropractic did. And that one of those stories was part of my huge passion of technology. So this centralized operation data warehouse that creates informational exchange and captures important data points, it's just big data. I mean, our profession needs big data. And that's what I'm building as the infrastructure for that warehouse, along with you and some of your partners.
Yeah, it is critically important, I think, for the awesome sports chiropractors out there to understand how on point Cory just was. I mean, we can move the needle so much faster with so much more impact as we're able to aggregate data and then apply even more technology like artificial intelligence and machine learning, true data science that will help us really make sense of all of that information. And that can be used for clinical care improvement. It can be used for reimbursement improvement, utilization and access improvement, and regulatory improvement. I mean, there's so many opportunities. There will be. It's not even like an assumption. Like, there will be changes in our industry because of the technology companies that exist, like yours, Cory, that will allow the profession to evolve like all the other healthcare professions are evolving as well. Because guys and gals out there, big industry in healthcare, and I'm not even talking pharma, I'm talking these large hospital systems, these other large group practices, they're benefiting from exactly what Cory's talking about. They have big data, they've got analytics, they've got data science, and they're using that to their advantage on a variety of different levels. And we must get there. And there's a lot of us in our technology little corner of chiropractic, Cory, that are committed to that. So it's a beautiful thing. So before we head off, I just want to know, share just like one last story or one last great piece of advice for these sports chiropractors. So let me tell you something. These people, these sports chiropractors that are listening right now, are some of the best chiropractors in the world. Like, I've had the privilege of serving alongside of them, both in the field as well as in a boardroom. And they're some of the most committed, awesome people, forget chiropractors, committed, awesome people on the planet. They care about their craft, and they care about their patients, and they care about chiropractic. So let's leave them with an awesome gem to take away with. And then I also want to make sure that you tell people how to get a hold of you if they want more information about BlueIQ.
Yeah. So again, one of the beautiful things about being a sports chiropractor and the impact that you're making is, how do we do more of that? But you're thinking, I'm only one person, my schedule's booked, I can't see more. Well, that comes down to, if you want more time, you need more team. But I get a lot of resistance when I talk to a lot of docs of like, oh, I don't want more employees. Well, that feeling is just because you haven't mastered the skill of running a team.
100%.
Because running a team is an incredible thing when the team gets it and they're well trained and they're connected to their data and they have monitoring.
They're connected to the mission. They're connected to the mission, right? Yeah. Like they totally align with the mission. They're mission driven.
Yeah. And I tell you, what's been so fun with Jay is meeting somebody who got it and so adapted technology so quickly, because it was already doing what he's doing, just automated. So going back to this concept of team, if you can recognize that you're growing a brand and that the brand doesn't have to be delivered by you, you have to become a master at developing your team. And your team can be made up of a front desk person, a marketing person, a billing person, a CA, other providers, right? You become the leader, the influencer. If there's anything that I learned in my career, is when I changed my mindset of just treating patients all day, and I started taking 10 minutes a day to influence my team and develop them and then scheduled regularly set times each week to train them. All of a sudden, we went from 3 employees to 7 employees to 12 employees to 20 employees to, I think the biggest we got in the clinic was 42 employees. And that's just a clinic, right? That's not the tech company. Well, pretty soon we were impacting so many patients' lives with 5 providers.
Yep, 100%.
And I was watching this impact. I was watching this, these patients' lives change. And some of them, I didn't even know their names, and I'm seeing their testimonials and their case studies. Like, that's what I want to see you do. You're a phenomenal doctor. Let's turn you into a phenomenal leader. And that's my mission, is to help people do that.
That's great advice, man. And it so aligns with so many things that we've talked about, but the things that we teach when we're speaking at conferences. You can be an individual contributor, and that's great. Like, awesome. But if you're a leverage contributor, where you're leveraging other assets in your organization, other doctors, other staff, to drive impact, you will have significantly greater impact. And you can still see the patients that you want to see. But when you hire the right people, first to, then what? From Jim Collins, good to great. You give people purpose, mastery, and then autonomy, drive, Dan Pink. You do the right things with your team, great things happen, and your entire world literally opens up. And you use the word profit, and I use the word freedom, and those two things many times are very synonymous. But it's great to have freedom. Does that mean that you don't pay attention to your business? No. I'm in my business all day long, but I love it. But I have the freedom to choose what I want to do in my business. And so for all of you sports chiros out there that want to take your business to the next level, take the advice of Doc Cory, because he knows what he's talking about. He's built great companies. Look into BlueIQ, because it'll help you really understand your business like you've never understood it before. And I can't wait to hear the stories when we see you out in the field or see you at conferences of all the great things that are happening in sports chiropractic literally around the world. So Doc, how do people get a hold of you?
So cool, guys. Please reach out to me. I would love to connect on Facebook. I'm Doc Cory, DOCCORY. You can find me on Facebook. Also, we're releasing weekly content on our YouTube channel. So go to YouTube, search BlueIQ. I just released 7 limiting factors to a 7-figure practice. 7 limiting factors to a 7-figure practice. How to create marketing budgets. We've got unbelievable content on there. Go on there, follow our channel. You'll get notified when new content comes out. Please contact us. Reach out to us at events. We'd love to meet you and help you.
I love it. Last thing I'm going to say is, I've heard you speak. I was at your conference that you put on in Utah, which was phenomenal. What a great event. The energy was like off the hook. The content was amazing. But what I want
you helped with that.
Thank you. But what I want you to understand, the audience that's listening, is that when Cory speaks, he speaks from an evidence-based business leadership mindset. There's a lot of stuff out there in chiropractic that is complete bullshit. And that's not where Cory comes from. And so I think that's a really important distinction to make, because there's great leadership principles that he teaches, and it's grounded in evidence and science and stuff like from Harvard Business Review and Good to Great and all the other books that, we've briefly talked about today. So check it out, go to his YouTube page, connect with him on Facebook, and you'll be happy that you did. Wow. So Fix Crew Worldwide Sports Chiropractors, thank you so much for being here today. Next week, we're going to have another phenomenal show. Dr. Christine Gertz. Yeah, I think Christine is next week. Nice. Chairperson of PCORI, the Patient-Centered Outcomes Research Institute, Department of Research at Duke University, worldwide, well-known, world-class researcher in chiropractic, and just an amazing, amazing woman. So we'll see Christine next week. Cory, thank you so much, brother, for being here. Great. I'll be connecting with you in the next couple of weeks, man.
Awesome.